Hello, everyone. In this session, we will walk you through our seamless migration journey across our product portfolio, starting from the widely known application proxy, then elevating your operations to higher and higher levels with our API gateway and the API management products, all with a migration that is basically not a migration, just a replacement of the running binary. But before we dive deeper into this topic, let's say a few words about Traefik. Traefik Proxy was born in 2016 as a solution to a production problem that Emil, our founder, and his friends faced by deploying thousands of microservices. Other reverse proxies at that time didn't support the level of automation required, service discovery, and so on. And this is when Traefik Proxy was born as a truly cloud-native solution. It quickly gained popularity throughout the world by being easy to use, and now we have over 3 billion downloads. We are top 15 downloaded image on Docker Hub. And even global research and advisory firms like Gartner have started to recognize our success. And based on our GitHub stars, we are #1 API gateway in the past 5 years. This level of visibility means Traefik is not only used in home labs, but also handling very serious production workloads in big enterprises. We have customers everywhere, whether they are financials, big banks, retailers, or service providers. Essentially, anyone who would like to solve routing problems with containers on a large scale can use Traefik. You can also put Traefik on bare metal or virtual machines, so it's a very complete solution and very automated. And as you can see, our customers say it's very easy and effortless to manage. So how this is possible? The secret is it's all based on declarative configuration and GitOps. Other solutions claim GitOps with questionable levels, but being GitOps native is exactly what we do. You can use labels, middlewares, plugins, CRDs, all declaratively, no matter which one of our products you run. Traefik is the gatekeeper of your infrastructure, making it secure, observable, efficient, and we scale with you as your needs evolve. Application proxy is the open source Traefik proxy we all know, and Traefik API gateway and API management all build on top of it. Since proxy can run in various environments, so do API gateway and management. Let it be any Kubernetes flavors, big cloud providers, HashiCorp Nomad, Docker Swarm, and so on. Gateway and management embed all these capabilities of proxy and extend it with specialized features. And it's an additive extension. Nothing is taken away. Your configurations remain the same. The UX remains the same. All the things you appreciate about Traefik Proxy today are carried through into each upgrade stage. Now that you have seen everything we do, let's focus on what you are all here for, which is how capabilities can be added to Traefik Proxy. Here is how that works. You probably already run Traefik Proxy in your environment, which is great. You absolutely made the right decision. It provides efficient routing, load balancing, service discovery, and I can imagine what services you expose. There are APIs among it. However, as more and more APIs surface in companies, and this is not something that I make up. This is backed by virtually every recent survey. No matter which vendor created it, all state that APIs are proliferating. And for example, according to Kamai, 83% of the total web traffic is comprised of APIs. So as you move forward and you have more and more APIs you expose, rises the need to centralize some of the common functionality with API gateway pattern. For example, instead of implementing authentication and authorization on each and every microservice exposing APIs, you can centralize this task on the API gateway among many other enterprise capabilities, specifically target the API use case. And as you have even more and more APIs, and you want to introduce governance over them, increase development efficiency with catching errors early, improve API consumption efficiency, observability, and you want to make these APIs discoverable, avoid having unmanaged and zombie APIs, you can now upgrade to API management that comes with versioning, linters, and other cool stuff. So your journey's first step is proxy. This is where we all start. This is where we all get familiar with the Traefik ecosystem. It's extensible, it's highly automated. In Kubernetes, it can be operated with CRDs, custom resource definitions. You can put all the configuration to Git, apply it automatically with GitOps. So this is good. It's free, it's open source, and if you route mission critical workloads and you want to have a peaceful sleep at night, you can still get commercial 24/7 support for it. But let's say it's not enough. You want even more capabilities for your APIs. So let's see API gateway for this use case in more details. We give you a license key for API gateway. You do a simple Helm chart upgrade with it, and now you have more configuration options unlocked on top of proxy. For example, you can do some basic authentication with proxy, but here you get all the big guns for access control. OIDC, OAuth token introspection, and you also get distributed features that mean, for example, on top of the basic rate limiting, which has rate limit counters on every proxy replica, now you get shared counters distributed among replicas. So as you scale up more and more, you can maintain the fixed rate limit you set, and it's automatically adjusted, counting for new instances. Or you get a native web application firewall with Corazza instead of the recently announced WASM-based one. And I can tell the native WAF comes with around 23 times, not 23%, but 23 times more performance. You also get HashiCorp Vault integration and so on. But do not forget, the API gateway is open source at its core. So you can also leverage features like WASM plugins, HTTP3, SPIFFE. It's also FIPS compliant. That can be, I imagine, important for the viewers from the US. And it also comes with OpenTelemetry metrics for ingress. And as new versions of the open source proxy are released, these features also appear in the gateway. So now I'm handing over the mic to Maitam. Please walk us through the seamless migration from proxy to API gateway.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Hi, everyone. So in this demo, I will show how to upgrade an existing Traefik application proxy to Traefik Hub API gateway with no impact to any of the existing services. So the demo environment is based on K3D cluster locally hosted on my laptop. I already have a Traefik proxy installed, and I have an API application already exposed through it. So the scenario is going to be I'm a proxy user looking to add more enterprise level features like JWT or OIDC into my setup, and I need to upgrade to an API gateway. So let's just quickly go through the environment. As you can see, we have a Traefik application proxy running under Traefik namespace. And Traefik was installed successfully. Traefik application proxy version 3 was installed successfully using hump charge. From the dashboard, you see you can view all your route and services configuration on this cluster. You can see that we have our dashboards already exposed, and also we have other weather API application exposed through WebSecure, and it has a custom response header associated with it. We can interact with the application. So I'm doing a curl command into the host URL, and we can verify if we are getting the right custom response from the header, and we see that is our custom response getting correctly. So now that we have verified connectivity to our application, it would be good to add a layer of security into our ingress rule so that only authorized users are able to interact with our backend application. So unlike Traefik proxy, Traefik API Gateway offers a wide range of access control policy and distributed security features that can help secure access to our backend application. For that, let's upgrade our Traefik proxy to Hub API Gateway and take advantage of the new capabilities and secure our API application with JWT. So for that, we need to first have a license key. So I already did that. So I stored the license key under our current namespace. So that's our license key where our current Traefik deployment is deployed. And the next step is we're going to do in-place upgrade of our existing deployment using a hump command. So the command will look like this. As you can see, we are doing an upgrade of our existing Traefik application proxy deployment. We are reusing the existing values or preserving all the configuration that you already have in your environment. We are referencing the license key that we are we stored as a secret under the Traefik namespace. And what we basically doing, we are replacing the proxy binaries with Traefik Hub API Gateway binaries. And that's it. We're not doing anything else. So once we execute the upgrade, it should take a minute. There we go. So in less than a minute, we have successfully performed an in-place upgrade of existing application proxy to API Gateway and unlocked all enterprise-level capabilities that an API Gateway can offer. So from the dashboard, you don't need anything. As you notice that we haven't really done much. We just replaced the binaries of the Traefik application proxy to Traefik Hub API Gateway. So the only thing that you need to do for the dashboard, you just refresh the page, and now you'll end up with a new Traefik Hub API Gateway UI. And since Traefik Hub API Gateway is fully compatible with the Traefik proxy, all our existing configuration is still there. We still have our application exposed through the API Gateway, and all our middleware still intact. And I can go here, go twice. I still have my command, and I still can interact with my application with no issue. Just remove this key. Right. So now that we have the API Gateway installed, let's protect our application using JWT. So I'm going to run this command, and I'm going to walk through it. So basically what we've done here, we created a new middleware, JWT middleware, and we updated our ingress route to reference that middleware. So if we check the configuration, it's pretty straightforward. We used the JWT middleware for the demo purposes. We use a secret, and that's the secret that we've defined. And then we updated our ingress rule to have the JWT middleware in addition to the custom response header middleware that we already had, right? This is just for demo purposes. By upgrading to enterprise, the Hub API Gateway, you have more other features that you can utilize. So you can have more complex example, like you can have a OIDC middleware where you can reference your any third-party identity provider to perform an OIDC authentication for you, or machine-to-machine communication with OAuth configuration. But for the demo purposes, we're gonna use the static JWT, static secret JWT for testing. So now we have deployed our new middleware and updated our ingress route. We should see this reflected in our dashboard. And we see now we have another middleware associated with our web weather API application. And now we have the JWT. So if I try to run the same command to interact with my application, now I don't get any response because I need a token for it. Since we are using a static secret for our JWT, I have it stored. I'll just sit here, and then I'll use it as part of my authorization header when I interact with my application. So I'll just make it clear. So we basically same code command, we pass the token as part of the header when we communicate with the application. And you see that now we are able to interact with our application. So we have successfully protected our application with token and upgraded our proxy deployment to API Gateway all in less than 5 minutes. And with that, I'm handing over back to Emmanuel.
Yes, thank you, Maitem, for the demo. So you took us to the API Gateway journey step, but now let's move on to API management. To get to this stage, we just upgrade your license again. You do another Helm upgrade, and now you can leverage all the API management capabilities. It's also possible to upgrade to this stage directly from proxy. In this case, if it's the best level to meet your needs, you can do it, of course. But what needs? For example, you want to create products from your APIs. You want to sell these. You want to manage the lifecycle of APIs, introduce new versions. You want to have centralized API governance, control API access in a granular way, manage users and their permissions at the central location, catch errors early before they reach production with configuration linters, and I can count it. Then this is when API management is for you. It also comes with an API developer portal where you can publish your APIs to consumers and make your APIs discoverable, easily testable with all the related documentation. And all these in a pure GitOps way. What we offer can be configured through declarative CRDs, but it also comes with a UI, so you can easily look at the configuration and the relation to your APIs and what is their current state. So with all this, Maitem, the stage is yours again. Please show the route from API Gateway to API management.
Thank you, Emmanuel. So I'll just clear the screen. So the scenario is basically now I have my APIs exposed through the API gateway, but I need to have more governance into my APIs. I want to interact with APIs through an API developer portal. I wanted to have an access control policy to control who has access to which APIs. And I want to have control on what method each one of them, each group has access to which of the APIs. So with that, we'll need to have some sort of an API management capabilities to do so. So upgrading API gateway to API management it has never been easier. As Emmanuel said, our license key will need to have the API management feature added to it. So you don't need to do anything. It just the same license key will have the API management added to it. The only thing that we need to do from our deployment perspective is to enable the feature. So enabling the feature is quite simple. It's exactly the same thing. We're gonna do a Helm upgrade, and we're basically, if you notice, we are upgrading our deployment, and we're only setting the API management option to true. And that's it. And once we apply it, and let's that a second, now we have API management capabilities available for us, and we can do manage our APIs at scale. Since we really haven't done much in terms of the deployment, there's absolutely no impact into our environment. It's all our applications still exposed through our API gateway, and we still able to interact with the application using the JDB token that we have already set up. So now to take advantage of the API management services, we need to kind of promote our existing application to use the API management service. And to do so, we need to create 3 components. First is our API object for API management service to manage API access object to control access, which group has access to this API. And finally, we will be promoting our existing ingress route to be managed by the API management services. So this probably sounds a lot, it's actually quite simple. So I'm gonna run the command and then we'll go through it. So here, we're gonna promote our application. So what we've done, you've noticed that we created the API object. This is basically the object that we will be referencing the application and will be managed by the API management services. The API access object, which control which user or which group will have access to this API, and then your ingress route is being modified to be able to be managed by the API management services. So if we go through the configuration just a little bit more, this is the command that we've executed. So if you check the config, this is our API. It's quite simple. Just give it a name. You can add more of like an API level kind of control. So here we just specify our open API spec file that we will be using when we interact with the API over the developer portal. The API access control, you can do a regular expression to mix and match between the APIs, but for now we just specify exactly which API we want, which is the weather API. This is the API that we've created. And finally, we promoted our ingress route. So this is our ingress configuration. Nothing really changed, but what we've done, we've added that annotation. So that annotation, once you add it, the API management services will understand that this ingress route will need to be managed using the Hub API management services. So once this is deployed, obviously there are more other features that you can integrate. So you can go with like more complex setup where you have your open API spec here. You can have a granular access control into a specific method that you want to apply. When your access control, you can specify which groups have access. You can add an API selector and match based on a label. So you can do a lot of things. But again, for the demo purposes, we're going to stick to this use case where we're going to just promote our existing application to be accessible by everyone, pretty much accessible by everyone. So now we've deployed now our application is fully managed by API management services. Let's deploy our API developer portal so we can interact with the API through the portal. So here I'm going to deploy the portal. And what we've done, we basically deployed the portal locally into our cluster, and we created an ingress route definition to expose the portal to the outside world so we can access it. And this is our definition. The portal is quite simple. You just need to add the trusted URL that basically it will be you kind of matching the host URL that you specify. in our ingress route. So that's basically the HTTPS. And then in our ingress route definition, we will have the annotation. So the API management service understand it's managed by it. So now we've deployed our API portal. Let's try to access it. So here, if we go into our route, you'll see that there's a new route added for our API portal. It's exposed through a WebSecure, and it's pointing into our API portal service that we've deployed. So let's access the portal. Right. So API Developer Portal automatically is protected using a built-in IDP. This can be modified to integrate with any third-party IDP, Okta, Microsoft Intro ID, or Keycloak. Any IDP provider, you should be able to integrate with it. So here we will try to log in with a predefined user that I have it as part of our built-in IDP. And you see now we log in. If you have your Open API spec file available, and that's basically what we've defined as part of the API configuration, I should be able to see all the APIs that is allowed assigned to me or allowed to me as part of the API access policy, and I can interact with the API directly from the UI. Now, to interact with the API, you will need first to have an API. So all the APIs are protected using API keys. This can be modified to have JWT as a default option. You can integrate with any third-party identity provider, but for now, we're going to stick with the API key option. So to interact with the API, we need to create a new key. Okay, just going to call it token, and then the system will be generating a key for us. We can copy the key, and we will be storing it as a variable in our console so we can interact with it. So I'm going to export admin token, making sure that there's no space. And now we should be able to interact with the API using the API token, the API key. So I'm going to pass it as the authorization header. And now we are able to interact with our API successfully. So now we have promoted our application to be managed by the Hub API Management Services. Let's see what other features that we can utilize to manage our APIs at scales. With that, you will have access to the Hub API dashboard. The Hub API dashboard will give you a quick overview of all your APIs, environments, and all the APIs running on all your different clusters. You can see the current state of all your gateways. At the moment, I have another cluster running on AWS, and this is my demo cluster. And you have you can have a overview of all your APIs. So this is our API that we have defined here. You can get more information about the API. If you have a version API, you can interact with the API, the different version of the API directly from the UI. You notice here we have a customization label for the Flux system. So everything that you will see here is declaratively defined, similar to what we did when we promoted our application. So you can store all your manifest on your Git repo, and you can have any GitOps tool that you have to ensure that your cluster is always in sync. So this is basically what we've done on this cluster, and I can go quickly through it. Also, you can, from the UI, you can view the granular access control list that you defined. So here we have the filter that this can only allow access to these methods. Also, you can view the rate limit policies and also access control policies. So here you can see that it's give you a nice view of what group has access to what API and what kind of methods are allowed for them to use. So here you see that they can interact with the Flight API only using get method, and for ticket they also limit it to these methods. And they can interact with the API using the API developer portal. The portal tab, it gives you a nice a quick access to all the API developer portal links. So you can just quickly copy and log in. We can try to log into the AWS account, and I'm going to use the support account to see how it looks like when you have access. And because of the support access control policy that we have, you will see that we are only limited to a get command for our flight, and for ticket, we only have these methods allowed to us. You can also see all the rate limit policy for you. So you know how many requests is allowed for you from when you do your testing. So now you have your APIs exposed. As an API admin, I still would like to see have control on my APIs. I want to see how my API is performing. And with that, the Traefik Hub API gateway and API management and Traefik application proxy support OpenTelemetry. So you can expose your metrics to any monitoring software. So here you will see that we are exposing our API metrics using OpenTelemetry to our Grafana, to our Prometheus and Grafana dashboard. We've already have multiple Grafana dashboards available in Grafana Cloud that you can utilize to give you a baseline on your API performance. So here we have like a kind of an overview Grafana dashboard. We have here more of an API specific dashboard that you can view all the APIs and how they're performing. And also we have a user specific dashboard. So you see how many users are interacting with. At the moment, I only have one, in, generating traffic and interacting with API and how they performing. So all this is like what you see is can be done declaratively and can be managed by GitOps. So in my AWS cluster, I do have this is a repo with all my configuration with a Flux to implement. So I have if I go into my command, this is my second cluster. You see that's you see that everything is managed by Flux, and every deployment from my application, the API gateway, all the way to my API and API access control and API portal, all declaratively defined and all managed by GitOps.
Yeah, but
With
you can
that,
use
I'll
any
hand.
tool. Yeah, thank you. But you can use any tool, not just limited to Flux. I let it be Argo CD or whatever you have.
Exactly.
Yes, but thank you for the demo again. And now that you have seen how simple and seamless it is to upgrade while keeping everything you have worked hard to build, and everything is in place, you can see that via upgrading Traefik, when you need API gateway or API management capabilities, is a smart choice. And if you haven't used Traefik yet, please consider it. It's cloud native, it's fully declarative, GitOps driven, and simply the best way to future proof your infrastructure as your business grows and as your needs change.